Sarada's time to go crazy has finally come, as it appears like in the recent chapter, Sarada has reawakened her Mangekyou Sharingan, and this time we get a chance of seeing what those abilities will allow her to do. As with the one thing that we have already seen, Sarada's abilities may be inspired by a mythological god, or that's what most people are saying right now in the community. In today's video, we'll be breaking down everything about Sarada's Mangekyou Sharingan and what we should expect her to get and what her ability that we have already just seen a little glimpse of may allow her to do. So let's first jump into Sarada awakening her Mangekyou Sharingan. Sarada was having this DBZ-like speech being given to her, the one that we have seen between Android 16 and Gohan. And we already know that Ikimoto is very much inspired by Dragon Ball Z. He says that he is inspired by the work of Akira Toriyama has done throughout his life, during his author comments addressing the death of Akira Toriyama. And we can clearly see this in this chapter, with Yato, who is telling Sarada that she is letting her abilities rot due to this unconscious confusion that is not allowing her to utilize these abilities. This confusion all stems from the very beginning of the arc itself, when she had this confusion of what she could do to help Boruto, with a Sumire who basically told Sarada that she is doing too much, which is ultimately going to end up hurting Boruto, as Boruto will always come to protect them, and by her putting herself in harm's way, she is also putting Boruto in harm's way. Due to this confusion, she didn't know what to actually do, to help or to just stand by, and with that unconscious doubt that she had, she couldn't use her full power. And in this instance, Yato told her that it is okay to fight for somebody you love. It is okay to fight for Boruto and do your best to end up protecting him, something that was a bit different from what Sumire was telling her, who in that instance was telling her that she was doing too much. So Yato in this chapter told Sarada that she can go all out and that there is no problem in doing so, and that is exactly what she ends up doing by activating her Mangekyou Sharingan, which was lying dormant and rotting, and then creating this sort of black vortex, which was able to peel away the iron sand. So what exactly is this ability? In my personal opinion, and what has been circulating out in the verse, it is that it is some sort of a black hole. In my opinion, this ability is definitely akin to a black hole due to the simple fact that we have this black vortex that appears, and slowly and maturely we see the iron sand being sucked into it. There are various questions as to, is there some sort of a dimension that is connected to Sarada's eye, which is sucking in the iron sand to lead it towards a different dimension? This could be a genuine possibility, but if that is the case, that it is sucking it in to somewhere else, then I don't believe that it would be some sort of black hole in that instance. Or maybe the black hole is connected to her own dimension, a bit like what we saw with Kamui. That would be genuinely interesting to see take place, but personally I lean towards the black hole explanation. So what exactly is a black hole? So if you Google it and you get the simplest definition that I found, you would see that a black hole is a cosmic object with intense gravity that are so dense that nothing, not even light, can escape their grasp. They are formed when the center of a massive star collapses, causing a supernova, blasting parts of a star into space. So with this interpretation of a black hole, we can clearly see that it would match Sarada's ability due to the fact that it doesn't allow things to escape its grasp. The first thing most people are going to point out is the fact that it only worked on the iron sand and nothing else. Thus, it is not a black hole because it is not sucking in everything. What I would say to that is that with Sarada's Mangekyou Sharingan ability, it allows her to control exactly what she wants to suck in, because we do see a clever panel from Ikimoto that probably most people missed, the fact that she drops her kunai as if testing that ability and seeing how much it works. This not only tells me that she is able to control exactly what she wants to suck in, but this is also her first time using the Mangekyou Sharingan abilities. She is probably aware of the fact that she has the Mangekyou Sharingan, and obviously due to the fact of not having the Eternal, she clearly doesn't want to spam it, and in this moment, it was the moment in which she had to use her Mangekyou Sharingan to get her out of this bind. So most likely she ended up using it for the first time. Thus, when activating such abilities, okay, if I drop this kunai right here, will it also be sucked in to the portal? And no, because she didn't want to do so. She only wanted to suck in the iron sand, which basically tells us that she has control over the black hole properties. And already, this seems like a pretty broken eye, so where exactly does it come from? And my personal opinion is that this is due to the genetic impact that Sasuke has had on Sarada. Because you have to remember, and one thing that we have never seen before, is an Uchiha who awakened the Rinnegan and then gave birth to another human, meaning and then passed on his genes to someone else. We have not seen that with any of the Rinnegan users, in my personal opinion. And obviously I'm not talking about the Otsutsuki like Hagoromo, Hamura, Indra, and Ashura. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about the people like Obito who have been able to get the Rinnegan, Madara who has been able to get the Rinnegan, but they have not been able to pass on their seed. But with somebody like Sasuke, he was able to pass on his seed to his offspring, leading to the birth of Sarada. In those two instances, not only did Sasuke have a very different Rinnegan which mutated with his internal Mangekyou Sharingan, and thus when he passes on his genes towards Sarada, it led to something that is quite interesting with a Mangekyou Sharingan. This mutation coming from Sasuke is what I believe will grant Sarada these crazy-like abilities. As if we already check some of the inspiration between Sarada and Sarada simply just as a character and a person, you would see from Sasuke himself that he says that Sarada actually likes observing things in the cosmos. We can see Sasuke saying here in the Sasuke Retsuden that I wish Sarada could see this, right? Our girl is obsessed with the cosmos these days. I'm sure she would get a kick out of it. So with somebody like Sarada who has already shown tendencies of actually liking the cosmos, and we've seen in the Rinnegan that it grants a person ability that can literally create the moon. With these broken genetics that Sarada has, I believe that her Mangekyou Sharingan will allow her to express that side of herself, a side that has always shown a genuine interest into the cosmos, and that interest will be reflected in the ability that she has. And this strengthens the claim that her ability gives her powers like a black hole. But there's also been some other talks of inspiration of where exactly Sarada's Mangekyou Sharingan ability may come from. And maybe you have seen this circulating on Twitter, but it is this page right here. And it talks about Amate Goro, who is essentially described in this case as a Japanese mythological god. Its inspiration meaning stars, various planets, and its orbit around her, and is able to wield the cosmic and have it in its grasp. This is what this page ends up describing. However, it really has no connection to any sort of Japanese mythology. Its actual roots come from a German icon who essentially drew it, as definitely coming from inspiration from mythological stories like Amaterasu and things of the sort, but it has been circulated as Twitter as some sort of actual Japanese name and actual Japanese mythology. And I really wanted to clear it up in this chapter, because if you see this running around claiming that it is Japanese mythology, it clearly isn't. However, could Ikimoto and Kijimoto have taken this image as some sort of inspiration from the abilities that Sarada would get, meaning that Sarada's abilities would be quite related to the cosmos and astrophysics? It is definitely possible. So I definitely do see where inspiration could be drawn, as literally we have with Sarada, who has deep connections with the sun, and Artis has these connections with the cosmos. We can clearly see it with her Mangekyou Sharingan abilities. So it is a genuine possibility that we do end up seeing that Sarada's Mangekyou Sharingan may be inspired by some sort of astrophysic mythology, or in this case this image that stems from already predisposed Japanese mythology like Amaterasu and draws clear connections to the cosmos. But now we have to speak about her secondary ability, that secondary ability that she will have to her disposal. And if we continue to talk about the black hole inspiration that I believe that her Mangekyou Sharingan will have, then there are a few abilities that she could possibly have. The first one that definitely has to be discussed is a time warping ability, as when you discuss a black hole, you would see that when you are in its perimeter of effect, time starts to work in very mysterious and weird ways. It may appear like time gets faster or slower in various parts. And I believe that if this ability is true, we could see Sarada be able to move into the past or the future, or potentially slow down time or stop it completely for her own benefits. So a future ability that allows Sarada to manipulate time in a very interesting manner. Maybe she has a bubble of effect, almost like Law's ability, where she is able to manipulate time in that specific location, which is a good way to make the ability not too broken, where she stops time itself for everybody, but she stops time for that specific location. That would be a perfect way to make her ability not too broken, where she is able to freeze time for that instance and do various damage to her opponents. I do believe that it is a genuine possibility in my opinion. So if I had to go with my personal two abilities that she will have, and it is, the first one is this ability of being able to suck in anything that she wants using those black hole properties. She is able to control what gets sucked in and what doesn't get sucked in. In my personal opinion, this won't include actual people, but this will include things like abilities, chakra based or not, even simple things like sand or iron sand that are real things at the end of the day. This is something that cannot be absorbed using karma. And obviously, if you want Sarada to be able to tap into this Otsutsuki level tier, it is clear that she needs these Otsutsuki-like abilities like absorption that will allow her to be on that level. So with this ability, she would be able to do so. Now, the second ability that she will get, in my opinion, is definitely time-based, a time warping ability, allowing her to freeze time, manipulate time in any way possible in a specific bubble or area, and people who are outside the bubble are not affected. This is clearly a way to do it in my opinion, but I really hope it's not too broken where she's able to affect the entire world and stop time for everybody. That would be too broken in my opinion. So those are my abilities that I believe she will awaken. However, I posted a community post asking you guys for your personal opinion, and that's what we're going to be discussing next, as there are some quite interesting things that some of you guys end up coming with. The first comment that I want to discuss, and the most liked comment, is by Sarada Bula. He says, I think the coolest thing would be that whatever she absorbs, she can bring it back and freely manipulate it to her choosing. So with her absorbing the iron sand, she can now use the iron sand, fully control it, and do whatever she wants. So almost like a mini nod to the base Sharingan copying ability, but on a much larger scale. Now, because she can copy Kekkei Genkai, but also be able to use it, but I hope it is limited to one ability at a time. This is definitely something cool, because the way I can see it working is that her first ability allows her to suck abilities in, whether they be Senjutsu, whether they be action moves like Kekkei Genkai that we see Shinki be able to use, and then her second Mangekyou Sharingan ability would be to dish that attack back. We've already seen something quite similar with Momoshiki, but it is more chakra based when he is able to absorb various ninjutsu, and then he is able to bring it out, I think twice as strong or 5 times stronger, whatever the multiplier is. But with Sarada, she's able to do so with various different sorts of abilities that can be absorbed, whether they be Kekkei Genkai or any sort of ability. Maybe she also has that multiplier where she is able to double the power or double the effectiveness of that power, and I think that would pretty much be cool. Or also she's able to store that ability and use it whenever she feels like it. That would also be quite interesting. The next comment is by Six Paths Hashira. My theory is that Sarada's Mangekyou Sharingan summons something similar to that of a black hole. I think she may be able to choose what's affected by it, given how only Ryu's iron sand was being pulled and nothing else. That being said, what she summoned was small, so maybe it's size dependent. It also looks like the ability doesn't require Sarada making direct eye contact, similar to how Amaterasu and long range Kamui works. It's probably going to be pretty overpowered given she is fighting a very powerful opponent. But what I am more interested in is how she deals with the side effects of MS and how much chakra her abilities end up taking. we've only seen one ability so far. So I don't know all the details. She'll have a second ability that either is related to the one that we've already seen or is completely different, like Itachi having the Amaterasu plus the Tsukiyomi, instead of being like Sasuke, who has the Amaterasu plus flame control. And I like what you're saying here, especially near the end. We already agree with the black hole theory, so I won't go into too much detail here, but one thing that is quite important, due to the fact that we basically don't have anybody else who has another Mangekyou Sharingan, which makes it even harder to deduce how Sarada is going to be able to deal with the blindness. She already wears glasses at this point, so we know that blindness is something that can come at any moment when it is for Sarada. But jokes aside, I really think it is interesting to see how she'll be able to deal with it. Personally, I have one theory, and we already know what it is. It probably will be something related to the Byakugo seal, in my personal opinion. And if it is related to the Byakugo seal, does one of her abilities have to do with healing? Well, that would be an interesting thing to discuss, and I really kind of hope not, because I want it to be an offensive jutsu, but it is something to discuss. Maybe it is like Itachi, where her first ability has nothing to do with the second one, where her first ability is a black hole and the second one has to deal with healing. Potentially that is the case. Or it is like Sasuke, where her first ability is quite similar to the second one, where she has this black hole like ability which gives her the ability to suck in various things, and another property of a black hole which has to deal with your perception of time, where Sarada is able to slow down time, just like my initial theory does end up suggesting. So I'm quite curious to see what will end up taking place. Now, the last comment I'll be discussing is by Boredom. If you follow Shinto deities, where the Uchihas are famously derived from, Sarada's MS is related to nullifying or removing jutsus, just like how she removed the sand with a mini black hole. I also have a hunch that she will be able to use the absorbed jutsus, somehow like a storage for jutsus she has absorbed, including Kekkei Genkai. And this is a sentiment that I've already seen expressed, and I definitely agree with. And one thing that is super important here is that we've seen somebody who also stores abilities. We've seen that with Urashiki. Sometimes he doesn't use all the abilities that he ends up storing, but with Sarada, if she ends up getting something that is quite cool, a cool ability, she is able to store that. And when she fights somebody that is stronger, she ends up using that. And I can see various ways in which it can end up being used. One way it can end up being used is in the way that she ends up having Boruto maybe use the Uzehiko, or maybe use a strong ability that she is able to absorb and store in whatever dimension or whatever ability that she ends up having, and then she dishes that attack out on a stronger opponent, an opponent who she might not be able to beat without this strong AP ability, maybe an opponent like Hidari. This is all leading up to Sarada having this rematch versus Hidari, as now she will get stronger, and then she will be able to take on Hidari by herself without the aid of somebody like Boruto. This is why you have to watch this video right here, as Sasuke knew that this was going to happen, as he warned Boruto and Sarada that they must stay alive, as there is a threat awaiting them that both of them need to take on. And watch this video right here to find out exactly what Sasuke meant now that we see that Sarada has awakened the Mangekyou Sharingan.